Hello and welcome to another episode of Hands Inclusion Open Arms entitled Three Reflections of Commitment. This is a personal topic that I wanted to talk about, and I hope it makes you a little more productive in the long run, since these will help you in your life make wise decisions and do other stuff. So for today's little outline, I want to share with you my reflections. The first one of which is test the waters. The second is to make wise choices. And the third is to let it go or keep moving forward. Now, before I get into the topic, since this is mostly personal, I just want to share a little disclaimer which you'll find right now. Since these are personal stories from personal experience, the views and opinions of the speaker do not reflect the views and opinions of the aforementioned orgs, work affiliations, and people close to the speaker, which is me. So since these are my stories, these are my opinions, I hope you can bear with me. So first, let me introduce myself before jumping into my three reflections. I am Christian Gerald Chan. This is my picture at the right. It was taken during ComSat's Blue Hacks. It was a pretty well picture of me, really candid, really smart. I was born on the 12th of January 1999, and I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome at an early age. I graduated BS Computer Science from the Ateneo at 2019, and I'm currently graduating my second degree in Game Development and Design this year. So what are my past and present commitments? So I was a part of a life group. I am still part of that same life group until now. This is us, last Christmas I think. I'm also part of Hands in Inclusion, which is a group that advocates for the inclusion of people with special needs and disabilities in regular society. And I'm also part of Accenture, was part of Accenture. Here, this was a picture of us where we made one winning program for an intra-organizational competition. I've also been part of some college organizations such as Ateneo Speed, which also has the same, more or less same line of advocacy with hands inclusion. We like to advocate for acknowledgement and inclusion and love and growth of people with special needs. I'm also part of the Ateneo Math Society. I was one of the legendary question makers and problem solvers back in my first year. I was also part of Computer Society of the Ateneo, which was my home org. And I'm also part of Ateneo Saladon, where I found a loving place with my friends and quote-unquote family in the documentations and publications arms. So now that I've said everything, let's go to our first reflection. We should test the waters. So what does testing the waters mean? Imagine that you're on a beach. You're a little child that's just wanting to see what the world looks like, how the water feels. And so you just take a few steps into the water, you dip your little feet in, and then you take your next step, and so on and so forth. To me, engaging in a commitment, that's what it's like. You don't start, um, you don't rush in head on. You just have to test the waters little by little because you don't know where you're going. My professor likes to use the word uncertainty because it means that we're not sure about where we're going. We don't know what's ahead. You do not know everything, space and time. It's a blurry way ahead. Imagine yourself in a flashlight. You don't know what's the way ahead. So It's like also like writing a story. You know you where you start, you know where you end sometimes, but the way you get there is indefinite. It can be full supply prizes, but it can also be very risky. So how do we test the waters then? Of course, some activity and some awareness. Activity means you have to be active, and awareness means you have to um, be aware of the surroundings. That's why when I say rushing in head on, it's sometimes for me it's a little brash, and I explain why in the next reflection. But you always have to make sure that you have to be active and aware because doing it or being part of a commitment is something that really, really, really needs your time and passion. If you're really, really achieving it, you have to be open to surprises. At the same time, you have to work at it with love because love makes the commitment go round. So let me tell you about the time I joined Ateneo Speed. Some doctors in the Ateneo suggested I join it because of my condition. And so, unfortunately, I didn't try it in my first year since I was a little scared. Now, after some help from my parents and family, I decided to try it in second year. I was inactive my first because none of my friends joined and I was shy. But then I started making a few friends along the way. You know yourselves, guys. Um, Over time, as I became more familiar, I engaged with the people there. I got to know other people who share the same passion as I do, the same advocacy as I do. I got to find a place where I can hone my crafts, different crafts. I also began to be involved in projects such as Speed Disability Awareness Week and Publications Pool, where where I write articles and advocate for people with special needs like me. Interestingly, aside from that, I found a lot of friends, some which I'm still in contact with now. As I said, interestingly, it was also through Speed that I found hands in inclusion. It was during the at the lab event where some of the members got to speak, and the founder of the Hands Inclusion also spoke about his life story there. That was how I got to know him. I got to know him more. I got to know his organization more with my friend Mary Chow, the outgoing president of Speed. And it was through this lab event that I found myself a new org. The picture at the right here shows what I chose as one little motto because of the lab event activity. Um, to end this reflection, test the waters, even if it's just one step at a time. So the second reflection I want to share with you is called making wise choices. Why would I need to make wise choices? Because making wise choices can provide the best outcomes for every decision that you make inside your commitments. It can make you grow and do better than what you are right now. So how do you make wise choices? Of course, let us start with word discernment. Discernment is something that actually allows us to make sense of what we have to see. Look at the pros and cons, observe everything, and try to um, weigh in on weigh on what the choices that are presented to us. Discernment can also mean as helping us to ask around for advice when it comes to choices, because the experience of other people um, can help us think about it wisely. Discernment can also mean to think about it as well. Finally, it also allows us to seek help. Discernment in making choices would allow us to take in what we have learned, as I've said, and then try to judge and see if the choice we're gonna make is good or bad. And good choices always lead us to having a peace of mind because the choosing with discernment allows us to make choices that are not at the height of our emotion. And people choosing at the height of their emotion always leads to a very, very bad choice. So if a choice you make is good, you get consolidation. Consolidation doesn't mean that the choice is what you always want. It's not always the quote unquote happy choice, but it's the one that you feel was the choice that you made that is best. It was the most right for you. It's like the choose the best answer in a multiple choice exam. Like I just repeat, it's not always the happy choice, but the one that you feel was best, the one that you feel that you made was right. So here's a story I want to tell you called Mama's Birthday. 2 years ago, before my brother went into college, my sister was out with their friends, and my brother had review classes. He was going to take a diagnostic test before, prior to his review classes. So he ate at Pancake House during that day. Mm, prior to that, after that, we went to Greenbelt after dropping off my brother. At because my mom wanted it. So during that day, the night before pala, I prayed to God that their birthday would be a happy one. As the day went on, I was feeling a bit impatient and stressed. I tossed my head saying, whether are you going home? Or are you still going to these places? So the choice I wanted to face was, do I tell my mom or not how I felt during that day? And you know what? I chose not to. And that made all the difference because later that night, I realized God answered my prayer. My mom was already happy having me around with her for throughout the entire day. Spending time with her was one of the ways I could have made her really happy, and I really did it just for her. So for me, I think it was a hard choice, but I did feel that it was the right choice at all, the most right choice at all actually. So make wise choices, even if the choices are hard. It is now time to reveal the third and final reflection I have in store for this open hands presentation, or open arms presentation actually. This to let it go. There's some things that you have to let go because you have to keep moving forward. And let me show you some reasons why. Firstly, think of the regulations and the costs. Too many burdens can be overwhelming, especially if you take too much projects at one time, too much commitments at one time. So there are some instances that you need to let it go. It can be hard, of course, because again, think of the costs. Do you need to like this? Do you like this? You like what you're doing with it, with this commitment now? Do you like what you're doing, or do you not like it? It gets harder if you like what you're doing, but then it's taking up most of your time. So I suggest you turn to discernment. You think about the loss and the gain of letting something go. And if you do it right, it will provide consolation and consolidation. One more thing that it would provide is that it allow letting go of the right things to let go can take care of our health, not just physical, emotional, and psychological, but most importantly, mental health. Because the more we get overwhelmed, the more we can get depressed, the more we need to take care of our minds as well as our bodies so that we won't be burnt out. So we also have to expect new opportunities as well. It letting go of one thing allows us to be open to other opportunities. When one door closes, another opens. So I don't have any story for this one, but I suggest you try it. So I suggest that you let it go if you need to. Because let it go when you need it because sometimes you need it. In order to end this little open arms presentation, I'd like to conclude with by recalling the three statements again, three reflections I just did, and some final words. This is my first time doing this open arms, and I know that these are some stories of mine. These are things that I learned from other people, and I hope that someday you get to learn from them too. You get to share the same sentiments as me in some of these reflections. And I suggest, I guess, when you make your own commitments, I hope you take these words into account. Also, I'd like to remind you that the best commitment is a faith in God because He knows our ways, He knows where we can go, and He knows He's gonna lead us to a better place, even though we don't know what He's up to. So, to conclude once again, test the waters, even if it's just a step at a time. Make wise choices, even if the choices are hard, and let it go when you need it, because sometimes you need it. Thank you very much.